Today we're going to check out the progress of our cool hardy annual flowers out here in the big garden as well as the tunnels. Let's go. Hey friends, it's Kendall, your joyful farmer. I'm out here in the big garden and we're gonna walk around and check out all of the cool hardy annuals that we have been overwintering here in North Texas. We grow in zone 8A, 8B, kind of on the borderline there. The past few years, it's been behaving more like 8A, even though they said that it's gotten warmer. We've gotten more cold snaps in the single digits Fahrenheit. And so we've been dealing with that the past few years, but we're still growing lots of green things, as you can see back there. I'll take you around and show you what we've got growing and also show you the damage that's occurred and some different ways that I've protected the plants through our last cold snap that we just had. So at the end of January this year in 2026, we had quite the cold snap. We had a lot of precipitation. First we had freezing rain, then we had about 4 or 5 inches of ice pellets and a couple of inches of snow on top of that. So it was really a challenge keeping all of the cool flowers in good shape. I did my very best to protect and cover as well as I could. Some of them I could have left uncovered and they would have been just fine, but most of them I did either single or double row cover, and I do have lots of insulation that I've been using from pine shavings as well as leaves, and for the most part it worked out really well. So this first row, I've got Larkspur going. I direct sowed it back in October, a little bit later in October than I would have liked, but this end has quite a bit of weed pressure. And then we've got a nice little area over here where the water company came out and fixed a leak for us. It was in the main line, and I just happened to have my Larkspur row right here. So there was a lot of water just sitting here even during the ice storm that we had. So it was super cold. All of the roots of everything in here were super wet, and I think some of the Larkspur was not happy about that. So we'll see how much of it pulls through around here. But the rest of the row looks really great. I covered the Larkspur, maybe just a little bit of it, with some pine shavings here or there. I literally just kind of put them on top of some of the foliage, but they didn't even really need it. They've bounced back and they're already looking green again after being uncovered for about a week and a half now. Plenty of Larkspur in this row. And then if we hop over here, this is all volunteer Larkspur in here that's popped up, and I'm kind of glad that it has popped up here because I did a little bit of direct sowing of stock, and stock is a little bit more borderline whether or not it survives our winters here in North Texas. And it's not one that it's easy to get nice tall stems on here, just because it heats up really quickly here in the spring. So it did fill in, the Larkspur just filled in for the stock that was there, as well as some volunteer bachelor buttons. So it's nice that that happened. I'll just leave it there. Here is some of the stock that was actually direct sown in the fall, probably about October. And you can see this is a really good example of, there's one even starting to bloom, of how it's just really difficult sometimes to get the stock to overwinter well and get a nice big plant. But if you take a good look at this stock here now, you'll get to compare it to the stock at the end of the video. We're going to look at the high tunnel, and you can see what a huge difference this is from what's in the high tunnel. Over here is saponaria. Saponaria is, I believe, hardy to zone 7, but it did really well. Just double row covered with two layers of lightweight row cover on top of it through I think the temperatures got down to 10 degrees Fahrenheit, but we were below freezing for a good 3 or 4 days straight. So I really expected these guys to have more damage than they did have. Was really excited to see that. Down here is some agrostemma, and some of it, you can see these little plants in here that look really sad. I want to say that might be because of the water that was standing here during the cold. So I think the water combined with the cold, the agrostemma was not all happy about. But I have clusters sown about every 6 inches of the agrostemma. I think it was the ocean pearls or the blossom pearls mix. I'll put it on the screen. Down here is some dill that was direct sown. It's actually white dill or ami. It is nice and tall at this point, and dill just kind of goes crazy. So I did a smaller patch this year. It made it through the cold with double row cover, though it probably would have been okay with a little less cover than that. The Orlea down here is direct sown, and it did absolutely fine with a little bit of coverage. In this row, you can hardly even see the row right now because there's leaves everywhere, but there are nigella or love in a mist that I direct sowed here on this end, and we've got a couple of different types of yarrow. There's some marshmallow yarrow in here, and there's some Colorado mix yarrow. This I got in the ground a lot earlier this year, and it's been super hardy. Yarrow is hardy down to, I think, zone 3. So I didn't cover it at all. It survived our cold and the giant icebergs that were here in the garden. It survived just fine. It comes back. It's really difficult to get rid of yarrow. And down here I have some more white dill plants, a little bit more ami, that I'm hoping it will stagger the bloom a little bit from the ami that was direct sown. And down here is Scabiosa stellata, or paper moon scabiosa. It's the one that makes the really cool papery pods. Super pretty. These, I believe, I just covered with 2 layers of light row cover, and they did just fine. Down here on the end, this is Cerinthe. So this is a new plant for me this year, and I tried it a couple different ways. This is direct sown. I also have some transplants that I'll show you in another section of the big garden. And then we've got some Cerinthe in the high tunnel as well, and you can compare the size of this Cerinthe to that here in a little bit. In this row, we've got calendula. The calendula was looking really sad when I first uncovered it after our cold snap, but now it's bouncing back and it's looking pretty good. So I'm happy about that. I had it double row covered. I think it was just 2 lightweight row covers that I had on top of it. And I added a little bit of leaf mulch to the top of the foliage as well. I really like to add a little bit of extra insulation for plants when I know that we're going to be below freezing for a long period of time. And it did help quite a few of the plants this go around with that. Down here I've got a lot of scabiosa. And these are all annual scabiosa plants, and they did just fine this time as well. Some of them got a little bit of damage, but I'm not concerned with it at all. They got a double row cover and did just fine. Over here in this row, we've got a scabiosa that's a little bit of a mystery to me. It's a blush colored scabiosa that I got the seeds off of Etsy for, and it doesn't have the same shape leaves, obviously, as the other scabiosa. So I'm curious to see if maybe it behaves more like a perennial variety. We'll see. Down here is the purple agrostemma, or corn cockle. I loved growing this last year, and I had a huge, probably a 20-foot section of it that I didn't know what to do with all of the flowers. So I pared it down to about 7 or 8 feet this year, and it's already starting to shoot upward. It did just fine with, I think, 2. I did double row cover this row, but it would have been okay probably with just 1 cover. Down here, there's some volunteer bachelor buttons. Those are getting huge, of course. This is some cress. I've direct sown in some of these gaps. There's some down there as well, but I like to sow cress in any empty spaces because it's quick to grow, and it's really nice to have lots of Persian cress when it comes to making arrangements. It's really nice and airy. It's such a pretty filler, and just adds such a nice little textural, airy kind of element to bouquets. This is some bupleurum that was direct sown, and I probably should go in here and thin some of these out. And I probably didn't even need to cover it at all. They're hardy down to, I believe, zone 5 or 6, and it looks perfectly green and happy, so I'm happy about that. More cress sown in here. And then down here, here's where it gets a little bit sad. I have some rat tail statice here on the end that didn't get any leaves or anything. It did get covered along with the Strawflower down here, but you can see I've got a lot of Strawflower that's just crispy, and it's toast at this point, some of it, sadly. But that's okay. Some of it did make it. With Strawflower, it's really borderline. It's hardy to zone 8 is what they say. But most varieties of Strawflower really don't like temperatures below like 28 degrees Fahrenheit. They're not happy with for any given amount of time. So it's been nice to at least have some left over after that crazy cold spell. This I had lightweight row cover, and this heavier weight row cover is more like an Ag 50 weight. It's really nice and cozy for them, and I had them covered with leaves as well. So I did my very best to get them covered, and the ones in the middle are fine, which is interesting. And the ones on the outside, most of them did not make it. And I think the reason for that is, and you can see the same thing with the Strawflower back here in this row. You'll see there's lots of brown over there and some green in the middle. I think the reason for that is there was a lot of ice on top of the row cover that was weighing it down, and it was so heavy that there was contact between the ice and the row cover, the frost cloth, and the foliage, especially on the sides, the way that the ice kind of landed. And it being ice pellets and not snow, and the freezing rain along with it, it was just, I've never seen anything quite like that. It was pretty crazy. Down here are our blackberries, our blackberry trellis. And down here I've got some bells of Ireland sown. I direct sowed them. It was a little later in October than I would have liked. But they're down here on this end, and there's quite a few that made it through. I did put a layer of pine shavings over most of them to kind of keep them insulated from the air temperatures. And then they were double row covered back here. They didn't look very happy when I first uncovered them, but most of them are bouncing back and growing pretty well at this point. Some of them I still need to uncover a little bit more fully. There's a little guy down there, but it's looking okay. Down here is Nigella. This is the green pod Nigella, so I'm excited to have some really nice green pods to use in arrangements from that. I do have Delphinium. It happened to get the same cover as this row just because it was in here in a kind of a gap area, but the Delphinium would have been just fine in the temperatures that we had. I believe it's hardy down to zone 4 or 5. And then down a little bit further, I've got Orlea that was transplanted, as well as Dara or Daucus, the wild carrot. Really excited for that this year. That one's a new one for me. I hear it spreads quite a bit, that it goes to seed and will spread. But I'm kind of not afraid of that. I've got plenty of other weeds I have to deal with in here, so I'm okay with some Daucus weeds in this area. And then we've got a little bit more of the blush scabiosa here on the end, And some of those plants on that side didn't make it. That's interesting. This next row is feverfew. So this whole area that looks blank in here, this is about half of the row. And I direct sowed feverfew back in the fall. And I did it a couple of times in an effort to get some plants. I have just a few little plants that have been thriving and made it through the cold that are the direct sown feverfew, but the plants back here were all transplanted in the fall, probably October, and they've been doing really, really great. I really wanted a whole row of feverfew this year, and it's actually going to work out quite nicely because I've got more feverfew started that I've winter sown and also that we've started indoors. So I'll fill in the rest of this row with another succession of feverfew, and hopefully I'll have a staggered harvest of feverfew because I loved it last year, and to have it for twice as long would just make me twice as happy. Down here on this end, you can see the sadness that is the Strawflower. Actually, a lot of it did okay. There are some plants that are left and they're green, but thank goodness I started more inside because there are several that are toast. This row is probably about, maybe 50% of it is gone at this point. But like I said, I did have them covered with leaves. I had them double row covered just to try and help them survive. In here, there's some volunteer bachelor buttons. Those are all volunteers. I don't even plant bachelor buttons anymore on purpose. They just kind of pop up, and I'll just leave them in some spots. This is some Sweet William that has volunteered down here, and as well as some weeds. So I'm gonna let that go this year and just kind of see what it does. Here is some Cerinthe from transplants, and you can see the size on this is a little bit bigger than the direct sown Cerinthe that I showed you back on the other side. So it looks quite a bit bigger. It has gotten some cover along with the other plants in this row, and there's bachelor buttons stuck in there as well. Oh my goodness. I've got scabiosa in here. These are some more annual scabiosas. And what's kind of funny here is this is a plant that I just kind of left just as an experiment to see what would happen to it over the winter. So it bloomed for me last summer and it's still here. The ends have definitely died back, but I've got all this green growth in here, so I know it'll come back. It's just kind of curious to see what it'll do. More scabiosa, some orlea that popped up here on the end. Forgive my drip tape messes everywhere. We'll get that sorted out here shortly. This is Lisianthus that I planted last, I want to say it was May or June, and they bloomed in the fall, kind of shorter stems, not a ton of stems, but I let them live over the winter, and they don't look super pretty right now. Some of them are a little crunchy, but there is some nice new green growth in there, and I'm just gonna leave them and see if I can get a nice flush of Lisianthus from them. Same over here in this row. Ooh, those look crispy and sad, but there's some green growth, so I'm hoping the spring will be kind to them and they'll put out some more blooms. Down here, I've got some Sweet William that is a biennial, so it hasn't even bloomed yet. It's been sitting here since last spring, maybe even the fall before last year. And it looks like it is gonna finally bloom this spring. Oh, more sad Strawflower. Isn't that so weird? It's the sides that all got the most damage from all those icebergs. And this is Sweet William. I had the Sweet William back here bloom super early. It was in November that it started to bloom. And so I just the other day picked off all of the center stems that were really frostbitten. Oh, didn't get that one. But they are starting to bloom again. I probably won't get stems that are quite as long as I wanted. But these are not too bad. Maybe 12, 14 inches on those. That's a sweet coral color, I believe. Here's more Lisianthus. Not all of it is thriving. And if I hop across here, this is where the Statice is. So I love Statice. It is maybe one of my favorite dryable flowers. It's just gorgeous and all the different colors. I've got tons of different colors this year. So I'm really just thrilled that they're still green. And 95% of them have survived at this point. Some of the plants I think just weren't as well established as others, so there's some gaps, but that's okay. I covered probably half of the row with pine shavings, and then I did do a double row cover on them as well, just because I didn't want to lose them. And they look great. They didn't look happy at first when I uncovered them, but they're popping up. Oh my goodness gracious. Wow. This Sweet William is taller than the Sweet Coral. I think this is the Sweet White, and it is trying to bloom again already, but these will be really super pretty with the Ranunculus and the anemones. What else is over there? The stalk and the snapdragons. Oh, those will be nice little green and white additions there. This row, that it kind of looks like a mess because it's got all of the pine shavings on it, but that's okay. They're gonna just break down, and I may blow some of them off of the row with a blower here before too long. But these are looking really good. I much prefer to plant Lisianthus in this Bio 360 mulch. It's biodegradable and it holds the weeds at bay for at least most of the spring and summer seasons for us. It's just so nice to be able to kind of have a head start on the weeds, especially when the plants are kind of sporadically planted and it's hard to weed around them. So I'm really excited to have that Lisianthus there. Oh, down here is some more yarrow that I filled in on the end. It's super tiny. I planted it and it was probably in the ground maybe 2 weeks before our crazy cold. And look at it, it's just fine. Yarrow is amazing. Down here, let me show you down here on the end first. This is winged ammobium, and this is my first year growing this guy. I've been a little bit more nervous just to make sure that the foliage doesn't die back on these. Even though the roots are established, they really don't seem to be happy when we get a freeze. So I did include it in a double row cover, as well as I put some pine shavings on the foliage, and look at that, they look great. They look awesome. And down here is some more Bupleurum. This is Bupleurum that I grew transplants of, and I planted it out. It looked really sad after the freeze, the deep freeze that we just had, and now they're starting to bud up and they're looking really green and nice. And probably the biggest surprise success over here for me that I was really happy about are these rows of Ranunculus. So field grown Ranunculus is kind of tricky for us here in zone 8A, 8B. But what I did this year is I have some Ranunculus that was a little bit more expensive. It was kind of a higher end Ranunculus, and that I put in the tunnels. This out here was Ranunculus corms that oh, well, hello there. The Ranunculus out here was all 80% off from, I want to say Tulip World, but the price was really, really low per corm. And I mean, yeah, so I did decide I would just put them out here, and they're actually in rainbow order, so it should be kind of cool to see like the red, orange, yellow, and there's I think pink at the end, and then I think this might all be white, but it's gonna be so fun. I what I ended up doing for the ranunculus through the freeze, or out here at least, I covered it with leaves, and then I did double row cover it. This is that heavier weight. I just put one layer of that over this side, and then I also, just in an effort to just keep them extra warm, I had a 10-foot by 50-foot tarp, just a clear tarp, and I put it over the top and kind of weighed it down. And it was good that that happened, because I was able to uncover this area before the rest of the garden. The rest of the garden was still under icebergs, and I was able to pull the tarp off over here. It was quite a bit of work to do that, but we were able to get the tarp off and get them some sunlight before everything else finally thawed out. It took forever. It was probably, everything was covered for at least a week, and I was a little nervous about them not having enough sunlight during that time. But they've made it. Oh, we've got some rabbits. Rabbits are getting a little brave over here. I may have to put the lightweight row cover back on them just to keep those rabbits from munching away at my ranunculus. But I'll do that. There's a little bit more Strawflower. This was a little bit younger than the other Strawflower, and it had the heavier weight row cover on it. So those plants, I think, did a little bit better than the others, which is nice. Over here on this side, I do have another row of Ranunculus, and it was covered, each little plant was covered with pine shavings. Again, it doesn't look like the most beautiful thing in the world to have all the pine shavings everywhere, but they'll break down and you won't even notice them come springtime. So they look really good. They made it through just fine. Here's a row I started planting with snapdragons yesterday. I do need to come in and finish that row. Those I really don't even need to cover at this point. And on this side of the food tunnel, there's the food tunnel, and there's gladiolus down here. This is daffodils. This is, I'm trying to convert this to more of a perennial space, so that it just kind of comes back every year. So I've got lots of daffodils in this row. Several bee balms. There's some yarrow in here. And Canterbury bells. This Canterbury bells, some of it was underneath the ice and got crushed. I bet you can't tell where along this row the iceberg was sitting for over a week, and I was waiting forever for it to melt so that it would go away. A couple of them did come back, so not completely lost, but Canterbury bells or Campanula should be hardy down to zone 5 or 6, and so I probably could have uncovered it, though the ice was just really tough this go around. But they're still green, they're still making it, so that's good. Down here I have some Veronica, some Trachelium or throatwort, which I don't think made it through. I don't think the roots were well enough established for them to make it through. Some perennial scabiosa in here. And then down here is, oh good, the little perennial scabiosa is starting to put out some leaves. See, that looks more like that blush scabiosa that I got off of Etsy. That's funny. Oh, but down here there is some Siberian Statice. There's, amongst the weeds, there's several little plants in here. So that'll be really nice to have that permanently there. The leaves are really thick and rigid, so it seems like they're really, really hardy. There's Eryngium planted all the way around here, and more Canterbury bells on this side. So I've got some gaps that I need to fill in, and I do have some more plants started inside, but I can't wait to see how this space grows. I think it's going to be really fun to have here, and I'd love to see the pergola turn into more of a feature over here. I do have a trumpet vine that's planted over here that a sweet friend gave me, but it looks like it's going to try to take over the world at this point. So I'm not exactly sure if I want to keep it there or not. I don't want it to spread so much that it becomes difficult to deal with, but we'll see. Okay, so let's go check out the tunnels and I'll show you all of the growth in there. So if you think about all the green that we just saw, the green that's gonna be in the tunnels is amazing. Okay, so we've got daddy tunnel, mama tunnel, and actually baby tunnel is back behind here. But this tunnel is kind of the medium-sized tunnel that I'm really excited about this year. Because it's kind of a multi-purpose tunnel for us this year. I like to do a plant sale, and so last year the plant sale was in the baby tunnel and everything was on tables and it got really crowded in there. But this year we've got lots of space on the shelves for lots of plants. We've been potting up peppers and tomatoes, so the tomatoes and the basil are out here. And there are lots of them. So exciting to see. And then we have the ranunculus in here. So this ranunculus does look a whole lot happier and healthier than the ranunculus out in the field. It's been really coddled and happy in here. So pretty. These are some varieties that are Italian ranunculus that I got from Awnings. And I've gotten a couple blooms from them, but they're just now starting to really put out some blooms. Got the little marshmallow squish going on. So pretty. Oh, and for the ranunculus, what I did in this tunnel is I did not heat this tunnel. When it got down to below like 25 degrees at night, I made sure to double row cover these guys, and I actually put strings of Christmas lights. I put one strand under each little tunnel area, one here, and one in the back. So there were 3 in here total, and double row covered them, and they were absolutely fine down to the 10 Fahrenheit. And they were super happy, didn't show any signs of damage at all. And so that's definitely a way I will keep some plants warm again. And if we come over here to the high tunnel, it's a similar story over here. So in the high tunnel, you can see the row cover is still out here, but I had the stalk covered with one row cover, and I had Christmas lights down the middle just because I know stock is a little bit more tender especially more tender than snapdragons. But now all of a sudden we've got some beautiful stock blooms going on. I have really struggled to get nice long stock stems here in our North Texas climate. And I am just absolutely thrilled with having overwintered these in the high tunnel. There's some different varieties. This is the anytime mix, which is a mix that will bloom anytime. It's not day length sensitive. So I've got various stem lengths on these. Not all of them are as long as some of the others, but they still look really good. And then I do have some of the iron series. They are nice and strong and stocky, and they're still shooting up, most of them. And then I have white goddess stock, and it's a column style stock, but it's super tall. Some of the plants I would say are at least 2 feet tall. I don't think they're all double blooms, but I do see some that look like they might be doubles. So really excited about the stock this year. Oh, the iron pink down here on the end starting to bloom. So pretty. And then I do have snapdragons in here as well. I probably should pick up all the row cover in here at this point because they are not going to need it again. I don't think with the weather in our forecast. It doesn't look like we're going to have any more crazy cold snaps. But the snapdragons are looking really, really nice as well. My clay soil out in the field does not really mesh well with the snapdragons. They don't always thrive as well as they could. So I was really trying to get longer stems by overwintering this year, and they definitely are longer stems and stronger looking. So some of the plants self-pinched. I did not pinch them on purpose, but they're shooting out lots of nice stems at this point. And then back here in the back, I actually have some royal snapdragons. I believe they're a greenhouse forcing. I want to say they're Potomacs as well. But the royal snapdragons back here have been here for about 1.5 years now at this point. They did produce a little bit last year in the spring, but now they're looking really, really strong, a lot stronger than they were. I didn't feed them probably as well as I could have, and my soil is always a little bit of a clay struggle. So I'm just trying to see how well they do over winter and coming back so that maybe I can have a permanent little fixture of snapdragons in here in the high tunnel. So it's not great that they take up space when they're not blooming, but I'm hopeful that maybe I can find some sort of an interplanting situation for them so that they can stay here and keep blooming and I don't have to worry about transitioning them out and pulling them every time and then replanting. I don't know. We're just trying it out. I also have lots of eucalyptus in here. There's like 4 different varieties of eucalyptus that overwinter just fine in the high tunnel. On this side, I do have Clarkia or Godetia. Some of it is direct sown. I tried at least 5 times, not even kidding, to direct sow this Clarkia out here, this Godetia, and it kept getting eaten by something. I think it might have been pill bugs, or it may have even been mice one of the times. But finally I started some inside and I did transplant them out. So I finally got some good sized little transplants, and hopefully I'll have some bug-free Godetia in here. I do have my heirloom mums in here as well. They do just fine in here. And then this is some of the Cerinthe. And you can see it's actually blooming. Some of them are starting to put on little flowers at this point. It's so pretty. They're like these purplish, bluish blooms. And it makes such a nice foliage, and I think it's going to go really nicely with the ranunculus and with all of the stock and the snapdragons. And then over here on this side, this is also Cerinthe. I have probably more Cerinthe in this row than I could ever possibly use, and that's okay. I am excited though because this might be a really great interplanting situation for the dahlias. So anywhere you see a little bamboo stake, that is where a dahlia tuber is that I left in the ground after the fall. So they've been growing. I had a little bit of a dahlia mishap last year because it got too cold in the high tunnel and stunted a lot of my plants, but you can see there's lots of them down there. I'm hopeful that because the Cerinthe is a one and done plant, it'll make these pretty foliage. I'll cut them and remove them. The dahlias will then have room to bud and bloom and do all the wonderful things that dahlias do. So I'm trying it out to see how it'll work. So far, so good. I do also have some sweet peas in here in the high tunnel. I have several more that I need to plant out here. I actually probably should do that today. But let's go check out the baby tunnel. So back here in the baby tunnel, oh, how pretty the sunset is. Actually, next to the baby tunnel, I've got Larkspur that I direct sowed. It's a bunch of pink Larkspur. I just happened to have some extra seeds, so I decided to put them there. And inside of the baby tunnel, there are more Ranunculus and anemones. They're looking so pretty. This is my first time actually to have anemones on the farm. I've never grown them. I grew a Ranunculus a couple times, but I'm just really excited to have such beautiful anemones popping up in February. It's so cool. So great. So that's the update on how things are going here in February after our crazy winter storm. And we're just so excited for spring, all of the green things. It's going to be such an amazing year. So what are you excited to be growing this year? What are you trying? What's working for you? What are you excited about and looking forward to? I would love to hear about it in the comments below. I wish you joy, and I'll see you next time.